Ohuhu Paper. Today we're going to discover why it's one of my favorite papers for coloring. And be sure to watch to the end to bring your coloring with Ohuhu Paper to the next level. So, there are a few things I look at when deciding if I like paper for coloring. First, I look at the weight of the paper. That means how thick the paper is. The heavier the paper, the thicker it is. Also, there's the tooth. That's the surface of the paper and how smooth it is. The more tooth the paper has, the more texture it has. For reference, standard printer paper has a weight of only 20 pounds and hardly any tooth, which means it's very smooth. Now that we have the terminology out of the way, let's look at Ohuhu paper. Remember how I just said standard printer paper is only 20 pounds? Well, Ohuhu paper is 120 pounds. That means it is a heavyweight paper. It's a super durable paper for a variety of art mediums. So it won't tear easily if you use markers or pencils or pastels or charcoal on it. You can even put many layers of colors and different art mediums on this paper at the same time, and it will hold its own. Also, this is an easy tear pad of paper that's spiral bound. That means the pages are easy to flip over, lay flat, and even tear out pages along their perforated edges. That's extremely useful for printing out my favorite pages on Ohuhu paper. Then there's the tooth, or texture, of the paper. There is a slight bit of texture on the paper here. It's not extremely smooth like printer paper, which means the tooth can hold pigment or lead from pencils or pastels. But it's not extremely textured paper, which helps prevent marker colors from bleeding all over the place. Speaking of colors, Ohuhu paper is acid-free. That means there are less chemicals on the paper to get in the way of blending markers or pencils. And acid-free tends to stay true to the original colors, so it won't turn yellow over time. And if you have a little more time to learn more about marvelous art supplies, go check out my playlist all about art supplies, full of reviews and coloring examples. Also, I'll be sure to include a direct link to Ohuhu paper in the video description if you want to add it to your art studio. Now, if you want to bring your coloring on Ohuhu paper to the next level, I have some tutorials you must see. First is creating a distress ink background on Ohuhu paper. Next is coloring with markers on Ohuhu paper. Next is watercolor pen's background on, you guessed it, Ohuhu paper. And finally, there's how to layer colored pencils, which will be very useful on, yet again, Ohuhu paper. And yes, I'll put links to each of these videos in the description for you. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining me in the studio. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next video. And as always, stay creative.